Hi everybody, it's Christopher and welcome to Life's Not Over, It Just Looks Different, the YouTube channel. On today's video, I want to talk about some of the things that I did in those early days to try and recover or improve my eyesight. Back in 2005, when it was discovered that I had lost my sight after my shunt revision, and back then I was seeing only basically light and shadow, I had a conversation with the neurosurgeon, and he told me that I'd have to wait a year and see how much of my sight I might get back or how much might improve. He really didn't want to make any guesses, and he really didn't want to put himself out there to say that I'd get a certain amount. He just said, well, wait and see. And unfortunately, neither he or the occupational therapist in the hospital made any recommendations or gave me any sort of strategies or anything I could do for rehabilitation to try to recover my sight. And I look back on that now and I find that very disappointing, because if somebody has a stroke that affects an arm or a leg or a part of their body or something like that, very often they go through all kinds of rehab and physical training and everything else to try to regain use of that body part. But when it comes to eyesight, the medical profession just really seems to not have any idea on how to try and rehabilitate a person who's lost their sight. But I'm not very good at just wait and see. So I wanted to try anything I could. I was taking in recommendations from friends and family and anything I could read and all these kind of things to try and stimulate my sight, try to stimulate the recovery, and try to get as much back as I could. One of the first things that I did was I went to see a Chinese herbalist on a friend's suggestion. The friend had gone to see them for a completely different matter, but friend said, well, you know what, why don't you give it a try and see if she can help you? And so I went to see this herbalist, and she said, yeah, I think I can help you. And so we made an agreement that she was going to give me these bags of different roots and herbs and all kinds of things that I could throw into a pot and boil into a tea. And wow, those were some funky tasting teas, let me tell you. I tried that for a couple of weeks, and to be honest, I don't know if it was helping or if it wasn't helping. Because I was trying so many other things at the same time, I don't know if any one thing was working more than another. But the one thing that the tea was really doing was it was really lightening my wallet in a hurry, because it was getting very expensive. Also with the herbalist, another thing that I tried was acupuncture. And so she was putting pins in different parts of my body and trying to stimulate blood flow, and it was an interesting experience. So we tried that for a while. But I eventually sort of severed ties with that herbalist, because as I wrote in my book, she sort of, we had a discussion, and she said that as far as she was concerned, my problem was more with my eyes and not my brain injury. And I said, no, it's a brain injury. I've seen the scans. It's clearly a brain injury, and this is what happened. And she said, no, your doctor's not telling you the truth. It's actually your eyes, and so we're going to treat that. And that was a deal breaker for me. She wasn't listening. She had a completely different focus, and so that was a deal breaker for me. And so I stopped doing anything of that nature, the acupuncture, the teas, any of that stuff. One of the other things that I was doing around that same time, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is in those early days, as a means of something to do and something that we thought would try to kind of stimulate the recovery and help me, was I was writing or keeping a journal of my experiences and thoughts and everything happening, which later formed the basis for my memoir. But it did a couple of different things for me while we were doing that. So my spouse would set me up. I didn't have the ZoomText software at that time. So my spouse would set me up on Microsoft Word, and we would set it up to 72-point font, and I was typing my notes in 72-point. And when I sort of felt that I was good enough to try it, what I would do is I would take the font size down one step. So I went from 72 down to 48 after just a couple of weeks. And at first it was really hard and it hurt, and I equate it to being like a workout program where, you know, you've been lifting weights at a particular weight and then suddenly you try to take the weight up. And it can really, your body has to get used to it and adjust and do all these things. So reading in those smaller font sizes would give me headaches and cause me strain, and I wouldn't be able to do it for very long. But eventually I was able to do it for longer and longer periods of time. So then I'd knock the font size down again. And so I went from 72 when I first came out of the hospital down to, I think eventually I got down to, I'm comfortable at about 16 or 18 point font. If I want to read sort of with any sort of regularity or you know, longer documents, they need to be at least 16 or 18 point. I can read words and phrases and things in smaller font sizes, but it's really hard. And even to this day, it's those smaller font sizes are just not really something I can do for long periods of time or read entire documents. So 16 or 18 is about where I leveled off. And what I used to do to show this progression, because a lot of people in those early days, especially in that first 1 to 2 years, a lot of people were asking me about my progress and how I was doing and how I was recovering. So I used to carry this document that you can see here, and I would show them this sheet, and I would sort of amend it as things changed. But I showed them 72 and then 48 and 36, and I showed them the progression of what I was doing and how it was kind of going. So I carried this document with me a lot so that people could get a sense of my recovery and how it was going. And I found that not only was that a very therapeutic and cathartic thing to do for my mental recovery, but also for my eyesight, it was a great way of sort of measuring progress and how I was doing in that sense. And it also, you know, capturing all of those thoughts and feelings and experiences back in those early days made a great basis for the memoir that I released in 2016. Another thing that I did that, again, I can't say with 100% certainty that it was helpful because I was trying so many different things all at once, but I believe that it was helpful, and I still do it to this day because I enjoy it, although in a different way. Back then, I broke out my old Nintendo Entertainment System, which I just learned recently, as of 2020, has turned 35 years old. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine that. But 15 years ago, broke out my Nintendo and was playing Tetris. And I thought it was really helping me for a couple of reasons. One, because it was helping me with my hand-eye coordination, and it was also helping me watch the movement on the screen and track the movement, and recognizing the colors to be able to line things up and do those kind of things as well. So I thought it was helping me kind of on a few different levels. And even today, the Nintendo system has long since died and gone away and it's buried on a landfill somewhere, I'm sure. But nowadays, a couple of years ago, I found a website where I can play Tetris online for free, either on my computer or on my phone. And so that's what I've been doing is as I play that, and it's still helping me with my reflexes and my reaction time and all that kind of thing, and I enjoy it. So it's one of those things that I've kind of kept doing because it's fun, and why not? And I think by now, I mean, I'm 15 years in, and I've been reading books on neuroplasticity, and I've read Dr. Roman Lansky's books on CVI and the phases and that sort of thing. And you know, unfortunately, it's been long enough now that I don't know that I'm really experiencing any recovery or anything like that. I don't think my sight has pretty much leveled out, and it is what it is. But I can still learn different ways to do things that can hopefully make things easier to do. But definitely in those early days, I mean, I was trying pretty much anything I could to try to stimulate that recovery and try to get things going. And I'm going to talk about this more in a future video, but where I'm at now is that has actually, doing those things and looking back on that time now and knowing what I know now with reading Dr. Roman Lansky's books and also reading Dr. Norman Doidge's book on neuroplasticity, from those things, I am now much more of an advocate, and I'm taking every chance that I get when I'm speaking to medical professionals about those early years and those early days and how important that stuff is, to try to get them to be thinking that way, so that if they do encounter somebody who experiences sudden sight loss like I did, and especially if it's as a result of a brain injury, I'm hoping that they'll take those materials and use them to try and help that person recover and get back as much as they can. Is it going to work every time? Probably not. Nothing works for everybody. There's no cure-all, but it's worth a shot. And had I been given some strategies and tips and things from the occupational therapist back in 2005 and 2006, or from the neurosurgeon, maybe my progress would have been a little further than it is. I'll never know that. And I'm not really trying to suggest that I'm sitting here regretting that. I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of what I accomplished, as far as, with my spouse's help and with my friend's help, all those different things that I did. They got me back to where I am now, and where I am is in a really good place, that I do really well with the vision I have. And in fact, 2 years ago, I went and saw a neuro-ophthalmologist whom I'd never met before. This was our first time meeting, and so she did some tests, and then we spoke afterwards. And one of the things that she said to me, after reviewing all of my information and charts and test results and everything, to use her words, she said, "You are punching way above your weight." And what she was saying, or what she explained, was that for a person who's had the kind of brain damage that I've had around that part that processes sight in the occipital lobe, she said, I'm doing way better than I should be. And that obviously what's happening is my brain is taking in every bit of light that it can get to help me out, to recognize things, to do things, and to function in my day-to-day life. So that was really good. That was really encouraging, and I attribute it a lot to what we were doing in those early days with the font sizes and Tetris and all of those things, and just not being willing to accept that was the end. I think those things were. I think the story would have been very different had I just tried the wait and see approach and sat and did nothing. That's everything I wanted to share in this video today on the things I did in those early days to try and improve my sight. If you are interested, I will put the link to the Tetris website that I play in the description for this video, so you can check out that link. And also, because some people have asked me about this, if you're interested in checking out my memoir, I will put a link to that in the description as well, so you can check that out. If you are interested, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And that is everything I wanted to share in this video today. I want to thank you very much for watching. If you are one of the 125 people who has subscribed already, thank you so much for doing so. I really appreciate the support and your interest. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would love it if you would join them and hit subscribe down below, and also hit like down below and let YouTube know that you like this video, so that it'll keep popping up, that others can check it out, and hopefully they will come along on this journey as well, because I've got so many more things I want to share with you on my experience with cortical visual impairment, the recovery, and all of the different things that I've learned in the last 15 years. And by all means, if you want to drop me an email about it, you certainly can do that as well. You can always write to me at christopher@lifesnotover.ca. I'll put that email address in the video description as well. I want to thank you very much for watching today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.